So, do you ever wonder if you bought a used van to turn into a camper, what kind of repairs or preventative maintenance it might need? Well, I'm going to tell you. Come in here and take a look at this. Okay, so we're trying to fix an oil leak. I've taken out the fan and the fan shroud and the belt. Look at this. The front of the engine is off. I had to take the timing cover off. Water pump, it was a nightmare. It was a lot of work. And I realized in order to get the timing cover back on and the seals tight, I have to lower the oil pan. So that's going to be a lot more work. When I first bought the van, it was about 2 hours away from where I lived. And I got a ride to where the van was, and I drove it home. I drove it home 2.5 hours. It was a pretty warm day. I think it was June or July, something like that when I bought it. It was summer. The rear AC fan, the fuse was out, so the rear didn't work. The front did, but it was barely enough to keep it cool. It was spotless. It didn't have an oil leak. It didn't have a hesitation. There was nothing I had to do to it when I first got it. I couldn't believe how clean it was. Mechanically, the interior of the carpet was in bad shape. They had animals that they hauled around in there, and they had peed in the carpet. It was horrible. But I ripped all that out. See, it smells like new construction now. So the very first time I took the van on a trip, it was probably, it was maybe 2 or 3 months after I bought it, and I decided to drive it to go fishing. So I drove it to a place on the coast, an RV park, and I didn't have any problems on the way there. Once I parked, the second day I was there, I drove to the beach, and I thought I had noticed the hesitation in the engine for a second, but it kept running, so I didn't think anything about it. But I didn't stop at the beach. I drove back to the RV park and parked the van, and when the next time I went to get in the van and start it, it was dead. It would turn over, the engine cranked, but it would not start, and I knew the problem was the oil pump. I'm sorry, the fuel pump. And that was the problem. That's what turned out to be. And it ended up I had to have the van towed away. Luckily, a buddy of mine, he still lived quite far away, a couple hours. He came and picked me up. He had a big dually and a trailer, and he put the van on there and hauled me back. But if you're gonna have one of these things, if you don't do all this preventive maintenance ahead of time, be prepared for a tow truck and a trip to the repair shop, because they won't let you do these repairs at the RV parks or campgrounds. And do you have all your tools and know how to, or want to anyway? Now, before I went on that trip, I just driving around my house. One day I got in it and wouldn't start, and I don't remember what the diagnosis process was I went about, but it turned out to be something called a PIP. It's a little piece in the distributor cap. It's in the distributor, and it's like in a more modern car would be a crank position sensor. That went out. I think it wasn't expensive, $20 maybe. I just don't remember even the cost, so I know it wasn't much. So that went out. If I were to buy an old van, I think the distributor would be the first thing that I would replace. And I knew that the fuel pump, I knew that was a problem when I bought it, just because it was old. It's a 96, so it's 27 years old, 26 years old, 27. Those things don't last forever. So that was really my fault, and the fuel filter. It was only like a few bucks, but I should have known to change that anyway. And that would have saved me a big headache. Now, since then, I really haven't had any big problems other than my oil leak. Um, the oil leak has gotten progressively worse. It, it's gotten bad fast once it started, and it's forced me to put it down. It's a repair that I was not looking forward to doing, but I love having the van to haul my kayak around in, and fall is quickly going by. Hopefully, I can get it done here in the next couple days and get out and do some more fishing before it gets really cold. So, just to go over everything, I think also, well, when I'm changing this timing cover gasket, I'm going to change the water pump, and I'm going to change the drive belt to a much more heavy duty one. It wasn't looking bad when I got it, but you never know how old they are. Also, there are a couple radiator hoses. They're not they don't look like they're splitting, but they're definitely not new. There's no reason not to change those. Once if you buy a used van, I would say unless the guy told you, and you can tell he changed them yesterday or last week, that's something you're gonna want to change. Now, if the van's been sitting for, let's say it's been sitting for more than a year. I mean, when I say that, I mean no one's driven it, it hasn't moved. If it's been 1 to 2 years, you're gonna probably have to think about redoing the brake system. And I don't just mean brake pads. I mean talking about the hydraulics. They tend to rust and corrode on the ends. I've had trucks where I had to do that, and it wasn't that bad of a job. But then again, I've got the front of the engine off on my van right now, and it's not that intimidating. So that may be a job that maybe something you don't want to tackle. You have to decide that. But if I was buying a used van again, these are things I would count on having to change and having to replace before it was reliable to take on a road trip.